In the next 5 to 10 years, China's economic development is likely to focus on adjusting debt levels. According to Dalio in his book The Debt Crisis, the existence of the debt cycle is accompanied by credit. It directly affects economic fluctuations. This cycle consists of 7 distinct phases, from the beginning to the bubble, and then to the peak of the depression. The business cycle is a relatively simple and real phenomenon. It is not an incomprehensible or empty concept. When an individual or business borrows money, they are actually paying for future income in advance. After reaching a certain level, in order to pay off their debts, they must reduce their expenses. In an economy, one person's consumer spending is transformed into another person's income. This individual level borrowing and spending pattern, zoom into the entire economy, is a manifestation of the economic cycle. We are currently in a period of austerity. In 2023, it is generally felt that it will be more difficult to make money. It is a clear reflection of this phenomenon. To get out of this situation, the key is to reduce leverage and reduce debt pressure. In history, there are usually 4 ways to reduce the debt burden. The first is to implement fiscal austerity and reduce spending. The second is to eliminate part of the debt through workouts. Third, the central bank buys assets by printing money and uses inflation to dilute the debt burden. Fourth, adjust the allocation of funds and credit. Shift from surplus to deficit areas to rebalance wealth. The so-called balanced deleveraging refers to the comprehensive use of the above 4 strategies, designed to reduce the debt-to-income ratio, keep economic growth and inflation within acceptable limits. With appropriate stimulus policies, such as monetizing debt and devaluing currencies, it can mitigate the deflationary effects that fiscal austerity or debt default may trigger. The real estate market, the stock market, and residents' incomes have resumed growth. This is what policymakers are trying to achieve. But these measures may bring different beneficiaries and victims. As the Lunar New Year approaches, we can look back at the major economic events of 2023 through the lens of the debt cycle. The relevant video content covers the main programs of the past year. It can be viewed on the homepages of major platforms. Since the reform of the tax-sharing system in 1994, the central government has received most of the fiscal revenue. In order to increase local government revenue, we have to rely on land financialization to expand the fiscal scale. This process actually drives up house prices. It has also increased the debt levels of residents, businesses, and local governments. Excessive household debt can depress consumption, while excessive corporate debt could lead to a crisis like Evergrande's. In the current economic climate, high levels of local government debt pose a constraint on investment and economic growth. Some regions are even under pressure to restructure their finances, as the city of Haging shows. In 2023, the real estate market will cool down and land transfer revenue will decrease significantly. The hidden social problems were gradually revealed, and various abnormal events occurred frequently. For example, the land auction in Suzhou has sparked lawsuits among state-owned enterprises. The financialization of land and the monetization of real estate have severely eroded consumers' current and future incomes. As a result, the real estate market cannot play its due role. With the implementation of fiscal austerity policies, social spending has decreased. Local governments began to seek to increase fiscal revenue by increasing non-tax revenues. The incident of Nanning Huibo Company increasing the value of collateral by increasing parking fees is a typical case. The company sold long-term rights to operate public parking spaces in exchange for large bank loans. At the same time, banks are facing profit pressure due to the reduction in deposit and loan spreads. Start downsizing recruitment. As the number of newborns decreases, the stability of the education industry is also being challenged. Large-scale adjustments within the system may be imminent. Businesses and individuals are feeling the increased difficulty of making money. The benefits of economic growth are primarily used to service debt. Falling corporate income could lead to layoffs and optimizations, and households could consume less. Make cost-effectiveness a major consideration for consumers. In this context, low-cost prepared dishes are entering the campus. The market value of low-priced e-commerce platforms such as Pinduoduo has grown rapidly, beyond Alibaba. In the spring of 2023, Zibo Barbecue became a hot topic. In the winter, cultural tourism activities in Northeast China also attract a lot of attention. Local governments actively compete for the cultural tourism consumer market through the Cultural Tourism Bureau, attempt to increase fiscal revenue and relieve debt pressure through tourism. However, this reliance on a single value and real estate-driven consumption model has led to the overdraft of social spending power and the simplification of values, leaving young people feeling a sense of powerlessness in reality. In this economic climate, some young people are choosing a more passive lifestyle, such as frequent visits to temples. As the debt problem deepens, local governments and real estate companies face the dilemma of repaying their debts. In the upward cycle of the real estate market, housing companies borrowed heavily for land development, driving up leverage. But now, companies that borrowed too much are feeling the pinch. In March 2023, Evergrande Group re-entered the public eye with a huge workout plan. It has sparked discussions about whether the government will bail out the real estate giant. In August, Country Garden defaulted on its US dollar debt in a row. Sino-Ocean Group was also unable to pay the interest on a large note. These events show that the impact of austerity has spread from private enterprises to large enterprises with state-owned enterprises. In 2023, the real estate market experienced a series of major events. The financial problems of Evergrande Group are particularly striking. The group took aggressive measures in August, seeking bankruptcy protection and asset restructuring in the United States. The motivation behind this action is to try to keep debt and unfinished projects at home and keep profits overseas. However, this approach is obviously not allowed by the state. Evergrande's own legal disputes also continue. For example, Evergrande Property filed a lawsuit against Evergrande Group in November. Attempt to position yourself as a creditor in order to prioritize property. At the same time, other real estate companies such as Sunac and Country Garden have also taken similar measures to cope with financial pressures. Sunac filed for overseas bankruptcy protection in late September. The founder of Country Garden, Yang Guoqiang, personally appeared at the construction site, trying to convey confidence to the public. Meanwhile, Wanda Group stood in sharp contrast to other struggling real estate developers in the fourth quarter, actively repaid debt. Wang Jianlin recovered money by selling Wanda Cinema and Wanda Plaza. Although this means that the rise and fall of Wanda Cinema is no longer controlled by Wanda Group, these events reflect the austerity environment. The conversion of assets into cash becomes particularly important. Historically, financial crises and bursting bubbles in Japan and the United States have taken a toll on the transformation of their financial systems. These lessons suggest that when dealing with debt crises, we should not avoid problems because of short-term pain or the loss of some people's interests, but take decisive measures. In addition to corporate debt problems, local debt problems are also frequent in 2023. The central government has made it clear that it will not guarantee local hidden debts. This means that urban investment companies that invest in inefficient assets will lose government support. Zuni Dakiao Company announced at the beginning of the year to postpone the repayment. 15.60 billion debt demonstrates a model for resolving high-cost implicit debt through rollovers, workouts, and reduced interest. Overall, there is no pain-free solution. pain is simply assigned to different subjects. The slump in the stock and housing markets has made it difficult to find investment areas that consistently generate high returns. The real estate-dependent trust investment model also faces challenges. The downward pressure on the market has squeezed out bubbles and inefficient companies. However, whether real estate companies go bankrupt or not, residents still seem to have to keep paying their mortgages. Because the essence of the unfinished property problem is the debt problem. Over the past 3 decades, China has experienced rapid urbanization and industrialization driven by debt. The future may face long-term challenges posed by debt monetization. These economic phenomena and issues have triggered extensive discussions and reflections in society.